Hello everyone. Today we are going to discuss about how we can analyze a sitting posture. So last classes we were discussing about what is a standing posture and how we can analyze a standing posture. So today we are going to discuss how we can analyze a sitting posture or what is a sitting posture and what are the forces or what are the parameters which can affect this sitting posture. The overall goal for sitting posture is the same as the goal of standing posture. It is to maintain or attain a stable alignment of body that can maintain with the least expenditure of energy and the least stress on body structures. So as like in standing posture definition or standing posture requirement, in sitting posture, the primary aim to have a proper alignment is to have a less energy expenditure with a least stress on body structures. So there should be a proper equilibrium to minimize the forces and also to minimize the stress on the particular body structures. Active erect sitting is an unsupported posture in which a person attempts to sit up as straight as possible. So, an ideal sitting posture is defined as an unsupported posture in which the person attempts to sit up as straight as possible. So, like in standing posture, how we can define? It's a proper standing posture in an erect as much as possible in an erect position. So sitting is also same like that. So it's a erect unsupported posture in which the person attempts to sit up straight as possible. In a way, sitting postures are more complex than standing postures. The same gravitational moments as in standing posture must be considered. But in addition, we must consider the contact forces that are created when various portions of body interface with various parts of chair such as head, back and footrest and seat. The location and amount of support provided by the various portions of the body by chair or stool may change the position of the body parts and thus magnitude of stress on body structures. So unlike the standing posture, when we analyze the sitting posture, we have to or we should be analyzing the surrounding structures in the sitting posture. For an example, in a sitting posture, there will be a chair in which we are sitting, and the sitting posture or the pressure on the body or the stress on the body parts are influenced by the sitting surfaces, that means the chair, or the surrounding structures of the chair or the accessory structures of chair such as handrest, footrest, the back. All those structures in the chair can influence or can change some kind of stress or forces in the sitting posture. So a consideration of muscle activity, interdiscal pressure and seat interference pressure in the active erect sitting posture will be compared to forces in relaxed erect, slump and slouch sitting and erect standing posture. So basically when we look into sitting posture, these are the main things which we need to analyze. What are the muscle activities that are acting on sitting posture and how the interdiscal pressure. So as the name suggests, it's a pressure, it is a interdiscal pressure, is a pressure which is applied to the intervertebral disc by means of vertebral bodies. So we need to consider how much is the interdiscal pressure causing in such postures and how the seat interface pressure acting on sitting posture. That means how the pressure between the person and the chair causing the changes in sitting posture. So all these things has to be identified in an ideal sitting posture. There are many different sitting postures, but our attention is mainly to active erect position. That means the normal erect position. So in that we need to be analyzing. We have to analyze what are the muscle activities, the front muscles and the back muscle, how these muscles are acting in sitting posture, and how the interdiscal pressure is increased or decreased on different activities. That means in a slouch posture or in stool posture, all those sitting posture, how this interdiscal pressure is affected. And third is how the seat interface pressure is acting your sitting posture. So these three things has to be identified in an ideal sitting posture. So first one is muscle activity. The line of gravity passes close to the joint axis of head and spine in active erect sitting posture. In the slump posture, the line of gravity is more anterior to the joint axis of the cervical, thoracic and lumbar spine than in either active or relaxed erect sitting. So this is the normal active erect sitting. That means the person is sitting upright with a proper alignment of body structure. So in this first one, active erect sitting, the line of gravity is approximately passing through the head and the cervical, thoracic and the lumbar spine. So in this active erect sitting posture, the muscle activities are minimized. But in relaxed erect sitting is also somehow similar to the active erect sitting with a corresponding or near normal line of gravity which is passing through the head, cervical, lumbar and thorax region. But when it comes to the slump sitting, so this is the slump sitting. In the slump sitting, what's happening? In the slump position, the line of gravity is far distance from the axis of rotation of head, trunk and the lumbar region. So as you can make out in these two pictures, the first picture, the line of gravity is almost passing through the bodies or the axis of rotation. But when it comes to the slump sitting, what happened? The line of gravity is moved far from the axis of rotation and it is giving much more of force or much greater force in the flexor compartment of the spine than in the extensor compartment. So why this is happening? What's the reason behind this slump sitting? Even though we know that the slump sitting can give excessive pressure to the spine or some muscular imbalance, why this is happening? It is mainly because a phenomena called the flexion relaxation phenomena. So it's a phenomena that is which is underlying this slump sitting posture. Flexion relaxation is a sudden cessation of muscular activities as manifested by electrical silence of the back extensors during trunk flexion in either sitting or standing posture. The muscle activity in the active erect sitting posture is greater than both relaxed erect and slouch sitting posture. So the reason for this slump or slouch posture is the flexion relaxation phenomena. That means whenever we are trying to sit upright, our back extensor muscles are losing its normal muscular energy or muscular electrical stimulation. So this will be followed by a active flexor muscles action. So it will automatically cause a flexion kind of posture. So that's the reason why this slump posture is having. That's the reason why this slump posture is occurring in normal people. So next one is interdiscal pressures or compressive loads on the spine. So as we said, three things has to be mentioned in normal sitting posture. First one is what are the muscle activities and how it is occurring in normal sitting posture, in relaxed sitting posture and slump and slouch sitting posture. So how this line of gravity and the muscular effects are occurring in sitting posture and why this slump posture is happening. It's mainly because of this flexion relaxation phenomena. So next one is interdiscal pressure which is applied in the spine. So as it name suggests, interdiscal pressure is a pressure which is occurring in the disc whenever we attempt for sitting, normal sitting, or a slouch or alternating sitting postures. Active erect sitting requires co-contractions of trunk extensors, that means erector spinae muscle, and flexors, all the abdominal muscles, which cause higher pressure in the disc between L4 and L5 than does in slump sitting. So whenever we try for erect sitting posture, as we said, the line of gravity is passing through the bodies of all the vertebral bodies in lumbar region. So the maximum or the highest amount of pressure is applied in between L4 and L5 in the vertebral disc. But whenever we try for slumped or slouch postures, this line of gravity is altered. It is not exactly to the bodies of spine. So that can cause some changes in line of gravity, and it will diminish the pressure in L4, L5 region. Next is seat interface pressure. What is the how this pressure between the person and the sitting surfaces is affecting on sitting posture. The pressure caused by contact forces between the person's body and the seat is referred as seat interface pressure. That means basically the pressure between the person's body and the sitting surface. Individuals with physical disabilities, examples are myelomeningocele or paraplegia, have significantly higher seat interface pressures than do people without such disabilities. So basically, in the pressure is directly proportional with the contact area. So if there is a large high contact area, the pressure, if we have a large contact area, the pressure will be reduced, and if you have a small or a reduced area of contact, it can increase pressure between the surfaces. So as like in paraplegia means paralysis of both the legs. In those cases, the normal position of limbs are not possible, so there will be some alterations in the surface area. So in patients with paraplegia or any spinal cord deformities, they have huge muscle wasting, and the area of contact between the person's body and the sitting surface is less. So in those conditions, there can be high amount of interface pressure, seat interface pressure, and if in normal individuals without any deformities and with a bulkier muscles in the thigh region or in the gluteal region have a high or a large contact area. So in those conditions, the pressure between the person's body and the seat can be reduced, or it is reduced. So those are the three things which we need to be looking in a normal sitting posture. So next one is how we can analyze a lying posture. So interdiscal in the lying posture also we need to be looking for how the interdiscal pressures are affecting in lying posture. In general, interdiscal pressures in supine lying were less than in either lying prone or lying on side, and in all of these postures, the interdiscal pressure was less than in sitting and standing posture. So as we know, in lying posture, or if we are lying on bed, what's happening? We are not producing any kind of movements. Only limited amount of pressures are applied in the intervertebral disc in lying postures. So it is the forces which are occurring in the intervertebral disc is less than in sitting, less than the pressure which is occurring in sitting or in a standing posture. And lying on prone with back extended and supported on the on one's elbow had the largest interdiscal pressure among the lying postures. So when we compare the lying postures, first one is we can lie in a straight with face facing upward to the ceiling. That's the supine lying. And if we are lying on our chest, that means if we are lying with our face facing to the bed, that means the prone lying. And if we are lying on our shoulder or to one side, it is known as the side lying. So when we compare all these three postures, the highest amount of interdiscal pressures can occur in a state or in a lying posture where we are facing our face to the bed and we are extending our back with the help of flexed elbow. So this is the position where highest amount of interdiscal pressures are recorded in the intervertebral disc. And seat interference pressure. So as we said in sitting posture, lying postures also has some amount of seat interface pressure. In order for pressure relieving surfaces to be effective, they should be able to reduce the interface pressure below capillary closing pressure. Otherwise, blood flow may be compromised and this may result in tissue breakdown. So one of the important points which we need to be looking when we are assessing this seat interface pressure is to assess how much is the capillary closing pressure. So the capillary closing pressure is the amount of pressure which can close the small capillaries which are present in our skin. So if the pressure is higher than 12 mmHg, the capillaries can close. That means the blood flow to that particular area can be limited. So in those cases, what will happen? If there is no proper blood supply, the tissues which are in and around those capillary area can go for tissue breakdown. So that can result in some serious conditions or some serious pathologies. So this is the one thing which we need to be looking when we are assessing this surface interface pressure, is mainly to reduce the pressure in order to avoid the capillary closing pressure threshold. So we don't want to increase the capillary closing pressure more than 12 mmHg. So we should be assessing this seat interface pressure in lying posture. The most unconstrained form of lumbar spine is found when the angle between trunk and femur is in 135 degree. So this is the safest position where the less amount of the forces or less constraint found in the lumbar region. So if we go for 135 degrees of hip flexion in a supine lying posture, the pressure on the lumbar spine can be reduced or eliminated.